Hello, and welcome to episode number 12. My name is Torsten Toppel, and today I'm going to talk about the foundation class. Probably the reason I'm choosing this is because I just recently taught a foundation class this last weekend. And what's really interesting is how many different things kind of pop from the class. And I know I've spoken about this class before because I also recently took it. And I keep on getting interrupted. So anyways, yeah, it was really amazing. It was really cool to also see. It's kind of neat to take the class, and it's also neat to facilitate the class because you get to see it in a different way, and you see people show up in a different way, more, maybe not so much in a different way, but more in a different perspective. And what's really cool is to get to see from the perspective of a facilitator how much people change and how much space is possible and how much space you can get from asking questions. And it's really amazing. I think that's the biggest takeaway I got from this particular last weekend is just when you actually are always willing to ask questions, it creates space for something else to show up. It really creates space for a different possibility, and you get out of the conclusionary world that we often seem to choose. And you get to really look at what else is possible. And then also with whoever shows up to the class, the willingness to change too. And most people, when they choose the class, it is a choice and it is kind of a demand to choose something different, to change something in your life, or to look at what other questions you can ask, and also really also a lot is acknowledge what you already be, how you already show up. And maybe you show up in many ways where you are a lot of these things already. You may be the questions in certain places and not even realize it, and not even realize that instead of going into the automatic making yourself wrong, you look at and ask, how much am I being that already? How much of that am I already embodying? And I think this was a really cool thing that showed up, and just the acknowledgement of what you actually already have created and are creating in the world. I think that was really another really interesting thing that showed up. That was really fun to see. It was really fun to see how when you actually acknowledge what you already are being, what that can create in your world. And just the simple acknowledgement, it seems like such a basic thing. Like a lot of the tools, they seem so simple and easy, and they really are. And acknowledgement is one of those things. It is sorry, I've got some thing going, almost a sneeze, but not quite. When you acknowledge things in your world, how much space that creates for you. As often we go into what's wrong about us, when you acknowledge what you already are being, it creates that space for more of that to show up. And more of you to show up in this world. And that's really, I get what a lot of people are discovering is that it is about realizing how many more choices you actually have than you thought you did. And it is really realizing that there is so much more possible that you have never considered. And I know that's definitely something that have become aware of, is if I didn't have all the conclusions that I had, what else would be able to show up? And what else can show up? And what else is possible that I actually have never considered before? And that's actually one of the questions, what is possible now that you've never considered? And still playing a lot with what's right about me that I'm not getting. And that's something that I have been playing with for a few weeks now. And it's interesting, after playing with it a few weeks, what has shown up is not what I thought would show up. And I have been getting some awarenesses. And I have been seeing things that I hadn't seen before, which is really cool. Actually, while I was in Saskatchewan at this foundation class, I also did an SLP session on somebody, which was really cool. And it was probably the first time that I acknowledged that there was a really noticeable change, as in space created in this person's world when doing the SOP session, which was really, really cool and really quite fun. And so that was one of the things that showed up with the question, what's right about me that I'm not getting? And it is interesting when we do ask that regularly, what does show up? And this foundation class was really cool for that. You just got to see so many different shifts in people and what space got created, and the awareness that people were able to get to was really, really amazing. And something that I did, it was really fun, and excited to do a lot more of that, actually. And that's a little bit about what got me to doing these weekly calls, was just to play with that a little bit more and see what shows up. And it is so fun to play with questions. And also one of the other things that really was interesting was allowance that showed up. And it mainly had to do with allowance for ourselves, and how much allowance we often don't have or give to ourselves. We can often give other people way more allowance, but for ourselves, it's not something we often choose. And it was really cool seeing that and being aware of, if you had more allowance for you to be, even in the right and wrong and ugly, or everything, the good and the bad and the ugly part, just how much more ease you can have in your world. And talking about ease, also asking what's required of you. I know as I sit here talking to you right now, in my world anyways, I've been asking, who does this belong to? Because I have some congestion, and all I do is just want to go sleep. And I had a long sleep last night, which was amazing. And just the awareness of okay, so in this moment, definitely ask questions and so on. And you can also ask what's required. And give yourself the permission and the allowance to actually choose what is required. And so it's something that we get to play with all the time. And I will be playing with it more later. I will probably be taking a nap, because that's what my body's definitely asking for, as well as all the work that is going on right now and is calling my name. So it is also interesting in playing with that and seeing how much allowance you have for yourself, and asking, if you actually would have the allowance that you do have for other people, what would that create in your world, and how much more allowance would show up in general? And so it's all these kinds of questions that we can ask to ourselves that really creates more ease in your own world. And I think that was the biggest thing that one of the neatest things that I saw was in this class is how much ease was created, and that it is a choice. It's literally a choice of choosing that, and how much we look at this world from a point of view of how difficult it has to be, or how difficult we can make it on ourselves or other people. And what if that wasn't our basic point of view? What if our point of view was about how much ease we could create for ourselves and others, and what contribution we can be to ourselves and others and the earth? And that's also another thing that I was looking at too and playing with more is asking how I can be a contribution to the earth, and also to others. What's required of me to contribute to other people's lives? And it's been interesting because when I have been asking that question, it hasn't been anything that's been really tangible, and yet it has been showing up in more of an energetic way, like contributing to people, contributing to the earth, asking the earth to ask for whatever it requires of me, and then kind of being in the space of just allowing that energy to flow energy to the earth all the time. And so that's also been something that kind of showed up. And so it's neat. It's all these little things that kind of pop as you play with that and look at that and see what else is possible, and also see as you ask more questions what shows up. It's really amazing. And just asking with choosing a few of the simple questions and what that creates in your world. I know another thing that was really neat was a conversation with my sister in the class, and she's got a couple businesses, and one of them is a facilitation type business, and another one is completely different, and they do a sled dog supply business. And in the last couple of years, what happened is that the sled dog supply business has grown exponentially. It's probably doubled or tripled in size. And her facilitation business hasn't really changed much. And so she was asking some questions around that. And the way she talks about the sled dog supply business is that it's just something that she does. It's just, that's what they do. And she has no point of view about the business. And what's interesting is that is the business that has grown a tremendous amount, and the other one hasn't. And she has maybe a couple of points of views about her own facilitation business. And so it was really interesting just to look at that, how much do we kind of stop creation with our points of views? And it was really a great example of when you don't have a point of view, what is possible. When you just don't have any particular points of view about something, it just creates so much space for all these different things to show up. And when you acknowledge that and you really see that in what that creates in your world, and how much your points of views limit your creation, and how much they can contribute to not creating what you truly would like to create, because you have points of views of what it maybe should look like in some sort of ways. And so it is really playing with destroying and uncreating your points of views around whatever you would like to change, even if it is your business or if it's something else in your life, and what that can really contribute to changing in your world. So it's really playing with that as well. It was really cool to see, and it was, I know for my sister, it was a total aha moment, and it kind of surprised her a lot too, that she'd never seen that before, and was so aware that her points of views were not creating what she would actually like to have created in her world with that. And so it was really neat. It was a really fun class, and if you haven't taken a foundation, take one. And there's actually a global foundation coming up on the 6th of April, which is coming up in like less than 2 weeks, or about 2 weeks, I guess. So I highly recommend taking the class. It's an amazing class. And even if you've taken it, take it again. The Global Foundation is an amazing class to take, as it's they rewrite the class every year, and that's the yearly rewrite that Gary and Dane do. And even if you can't make it to the class live, which is in Houston, live stream it. It's really cool. I highly recommend that. And it's always good to take it again. It's always great to go through the manual again and really look at all the places that we can create some change, and all the places that, all the questions that are available to us, all the tools. Even if you use just a fraction of the tools in that one class, will change your world completely. And so really, what else is possible with that? And thank you so much for watching. And we will do this again next week. I believe it will be at the same time. I'll have to check my calendar, but I am trying to keep it around the same time. And thank you so much. And yeah, play, ask some questions, and ask your body what it requires, and what kind of allowance can you have for yourself, and what else is possible. Until next week, we'll talk to you again. Bye.